In the last lecture, I told you that the objects that we define in a module are private by default. So they are not accessible from the outside unless we export them. Let's explore this topic in a bit more detail. So here in our teacher module or teacher.js, I'm going to define a function. Let's call that promote. We don't have any code here, just a simple function. Now save the changes. Back in index.js, so on the top, we're importing the teacher class from the teacher module. Temporarily, I'm going to delete this. Press Control Space. So with the IntelliSense, you can see here we have the teacher class that is exported from the teacher module, but we don't see our promote function, right? So back to teacher.js. If we export this function, now we can import it in index.js. So save the changes, back to index.js. Once again, Control Space. Look, we have the promote function and the teacher class. So we can export one or more objects from a given module. These are what we call named exports. So what is exported has a name, like the promote function or the teacher class. Now, apart from named exports, we also have the concept of default export. And that is the main object that is exported from a module. Typically, we use default exports if there is only a single object that we want to export. Let me show you what I mean. So back to teacher.js, let me temporarily comment this out. So you can see currently we are exporting only a single object. That is the teacher class, right? Now you might say, but Mosh, a class is not an object. Well, in JavaScript, technically a class is an object, because JavaScript classes are syntactic sugar over constructor functions. And functions, as I told you before, are objects. So a class is technically an object in JavaScript. Now that aside, here we're exporting a single object. Now, we can add the default keyword here, and that means this teacher object is the main thing or the default thing that we're exporting from this module. Now with this, back to index.js, we don't need the curly braces anymore. We use these braces only to import the named exports. In this case, teacher is the default export, so we import it like this. Save the changes. You can see our application is still working. We've got the teach message on the console. So let me quickly recap. With default exports, we import them like this. Import whatever from this module. With named exports, we import them like this. We put them in curly braces. Okay. Now it is also possible that a module has a default export as well as a bunch of named exports. React module is an example of that. And I'm going to show you that in a second. So back to our teacher module. Here we have a default export, but I'm also going to export this function. So we have a named export as well as the default export, right? Save the changes back in index.js. So on the top, we are importing the default export. Also, we add curly braces, Control Space. Look, we have the promote function. This is a named export. We can import that as well. Now, why does this matter? This is a pattern that you see a lot in React applications. So as you will see in the following sections, on top of almost every file in a React application, we have an import statement like this. Import React, comma, braces, component from React. You can see this import statement looks very similar to what we have on line 1. So let's see what's going on here. Obviously, React is the module, but note that here we don't have period slash because we use that only for our own modules that are part of the project. But React is not part of our project. It's a third-party library that is stored inside of the node modules folder. Okay. Now React is the default export from this module, whereas component is a named export. So if I delete this and press Control Space, you can see all the named exports in the React module. 99% of the time, we're going to use the component class because we want our custom components to extend this component so they will inherit all the behavior, all the methods implemented inside of this class. Okay. So that brings us to the end of this section. I hope you enjoyed the material, and I will see you in the next section.